Hi, my name is Rakesh Patel, and I'm a civil engineering student at Texas A&M. Today I'd just like to take a little time and share my testimony with you how God brought me to Jesus Christ. It's a testimony of power, of love, and His pursuit. It's not so much that people are pursuing God, but it's God who pursues people. I grew up in East Texas, Jasper, Texas, to be more specific. It's a town of about 8,000 people. I grew up in a family who believes in Hinduism. Hinduism is polytheistic. They believe in many gods. They believe in reincarnation, in karma, things like that. And so I grew up as a Hindu. And I also grew up with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. It's an anxiety disorder where people have obsessive thoughts and they do rituals to try to stop these thoughts or to relieve the stress. And some people shower for hours a day just because they have obsessive thoughts where they never feel clean. I had obsessive thoughts about the end of the world. It started in the first grade. You can imagine a 6-year-old trying to, obsessing about the end of the world for like about 2 weeks. Sometimes it'd be every minute, every second. This especially started after my 5th grade year. I started obsessing about the end of the world, and it seemed almost every minute or every, if not every minute, then every second, or not every second, then certainly at least every hour of the day I would have these obsessive thoughts about the end of the world, or I was at least trying to fight them. And it took a lot of strength out of me. It was very stressful. But anyway, one of the days that changed my life was January 23rd, 2006, when I watched this show on the History Channel. It was a show called Decoding the Bible or something like that. It talked about the end of the world. And so, I figured, I would start obsessing about these thoughts again. But I wanted to watch the show anyway. So I watched the last 10 minutes of the show, and sure enough, it's about the end of the world, and I started obsessing about it again. And this time the show gave a year, and I started obsessing that it might be that year. I don't know. But, I was just getting depleted of my strength. I couldn't hold on. It seemed, I couldn't keep going on my own. I didn't turn to Christ yet, though. I became more religious in Hinduism. I started praying before I ate and things like that. I kind of prayed to God a little bit more, but, it wasn't very serious yet. But it just so happened that at the same time we were covering in my 11th grade English class this unit about the Jewish culture. And we had this project to do where we had to look up some questions. And one of the questions we had to look up was, what did the Jews think of the Messiah? And so I kind of had knowledge, brief knowledge of the Jewish religion before, but I went on the internet looking for a more definite answer. And I somehow came across this article how this guy, how he became a Christian. How he as a young kid had prayed the prayer to accept Christ, but I guess he never really got saved because he fell into sin in his college and teenage years, and now he was older and he was just crying out to God he was asking God to have mercy on him for his sins. And it's kind of, I was not looking for this, but it kind of intrigued me. I was like, wow, I'd never seen anything like this before. It kind of took me away a little bit. I continued reading, though, and later on in that article it said Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. And in 11 years or 17 years of living, I had never seen that before. And so I still remember that day when I saw that, when I read that, it was like God opened my heart to believe it. And I believed it, and I knew that since I was not with Christ, I knew I was in trouble. And so, there was a definite working that God was doing in my heart at that time, from that time on. Before I would sin and I would tell myself, well, it's okay, I'll sin. I'll go to hell, it's okay. I didn't care. Now I knew that if I died, I would definitely go to hell. And there was a real fear that, I was trying to, not die. Just because I knew I would go to hell. And so, there was a real guilt and there was a definite conviction on my heart. And I knew, looking back, I knew I stand guilty. And I was just looking for ways, or finding some way to relieve myself of this guilt and conviction. So I tried to find answers in Hinduism. I spent hours on the internet looking up stuff in different religions, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Christianity. I wanted just to stay a Hindu because I knew if I changed, if I became a Christian, my parents would kind of be shocked. and so definitely be leaving my comfort zone. But you know, I tried to find assurance in Hinduism. I never found it. You know, before this time, I told myself that I'd become more religious in my 40s or 50s. You know, try to push it away, but it wasn't the Lord's will. And I told myself while I was going through this time that, you know, I'd look into Christianity within a year, and that was not God's plan either. It was just, you know, about 2 months afterward where, you know, there was a heavier presence of guilt on my heart. It was a heavier presence of God, and I couldn't bear it. So I went to my room, and, you know, I felt as if God was prompting me to speak, but I didn't want Him to speak, and so I was trying to keep Him down, but I couldn't do it. And so I just kind of blurted out, like, "Jesus, you're my God." And, you know, I didn't know what I did at that. You know, I didn't know what I had exactly done. It was just, you know, I believe that was the day I became a Christian. It's a simple prayer, nothing too fancy, but it was a prayer that changed my life for eternity. You know, and through this all, God was the only one who had His hand upon me. You know, there was no one who kind of verbally witnessed to me or anything like that. I did not consult a pastor. You know, it was just me and God, a type of thing. You know, the glory goes to Him. He did it all. You know, and all I had to do was turn from Hinduism, turn to Him to be saved. And you know, I hope you find this testimony encouraging. That, you know, even if you use just a little bit in someone's life, you know, God can still use it. I'm not saying just use a little or just talk a little bit with people, but I mean, God can still use even a little. And you know, you may not know what's going on in a person's life, but, you know, surely God may be working in them. He definitely was in me. And, you know, no one knew I was going through all this. But you know, 17 years of living and playing video games, you know, watching TV, you know, living in the world, you know, does not compare to 3 years just being a Christian. I would definitely never trade that in. It's definitely been a blessed life, just coming to know Jesus Christ, growing in Him. You know, so I pray that you know, one day, if you have not found Christ, I pray that you would find Christ. You know, it's worth it for eternity. So I pray that God will bless your day, and have a good day, and you know, just have a blessed day.